This is a simple hoarding bug. It picks up loot and brings it to its nest. And this is a nutcracker. It's an alien eyeball armed with a damn shotgun. What's the difference? One of them is much more dangerous than the other. And here's all 19 monsters in Lethal Company ranked from safest to lethalist. 19. The roaming locusts. Now these guys literally do nothing. They're in their own lane, do their own thing, roam. They'll spawn in the surface of the moon and will only make a bit of noise, and then when you run into them, they'll disappear. The only somewhat dangerous thing about them is from a distance they might look like circuit bees, but you can tell the difference because the bees have a lightning effect around them, and the roaming locusts do not. Number 18, manticoils. Manticoils are birds that you'll find on the surface of whatever moon you're on. Similar to locusts, they are completely harmless. The only reason these are ranked higher is that when they fly away, their wing flaps can startle you and make you move your mouse sporadically, which can increase your paranoia, which you don't want to do. You'll see why later. And they can usually spawn in about clumps to 5, and other than that, they're completely harmless. 17, spore lizard. This is the first enemy that can technically kill you, but you have to fuck up hard in order to let them do that. The spore lizard is found by hearing its squeaky little footsteps throughout the halls of the facility. When startled by a player getting too close, it'll open its mouth and point it at you. This can be scary for the first time seeing it, but as long as you don't try to hug it, you'll be okay. If you get too close, it'll do either two things. It'll run away and use its pink bulb on its tail to release a steam valve-like blinding cloud that'll fade away after about 15 seconds, or it'll try to bite you. But don't worry, it'll only nib you for like 20 hit points, which you have 100 of. Besides, some of the things later on this list don't give a fuck about hit points and will rock your shit, so even if you get bit, it doesn't matter. 16, Hygradeer, also known as the blob or slime, is a mass of corpses that knows where you are at all times in the facility. It engulfs its enemies and turns them into more Hygradeer mass. Sounds like something from an SCP. Fortunately, this massive death is slow as shit. Also, it can't open doors, so in order to counter it, just shut a door in its face. The only time they are somewhat threatening is when they corner you in a hall and their fat asses take up the entire corridor, but you can jump over them, so it's not really that much of a deal, and they don't insta-kill. Fun fact, it'll double its speed if you play a boombox near it, which I think is pretty funny because it gets groovy when it moves too. Also, they could be at the main entrance and just fucking slap you the minute you get in, which has happened multiple damn times. 15. Baboon hawk, also known as gang violence. This bird thing is a territorial entity that will yell at you. They will attack if there's an even number or more hawks to players, meaning if there's one hawk and 2 people, it'll never attack. But if there's 5 hawks and only one of you, you're getting jumped. The only time they're really threatening is when you get multiple of them, but they don't spawn that often. They're actually somewhat useful because they can distract forest giants and attack mouth dogs because they make noise. Also, in order to startle them, you have to look at them, and as long as you just don't look at them and there's more yous than baboon hawks, you should be fine. And I've only ever died to them once, and that's because it spawned right in my face. Like, are you fucking kidding me? That's not fair. 14. Hoarding bug, also known as the loot bug. The hoarding bug is a silly little guy that loves scrap just as much as you do. It'll make a nest somewhere and go venturing for loot to bring back to its nest. When you get too close to its nest, it'll put its arm up and try to intimidate you like a red panda. But they're so fucking cute. You just want to pet them. Give them a little head pat, just, oh god, it's fucking flying. If you die near them, they'll pick up your corpse and bring it to their nest. They can be beaten with a shovel or shocked with a zap gun, so you can kill them rather easily and steal their loot, or recover your friend's corpse that they've so thoughtfully stolen. They only take 2 shovel hits, so they're pretty free, and you can't get mad at them. I mean, look at how damn cute they are. 13. Earth Leviathan, also known as a sandworm. These massive worms burrow underground and will shake the ground below you before jumping up and trying to swallow you whole. But they're easily countered by paying attention to when the ground starts to shake violently and brown clumps start to come out of the ground. But it's kind of random because they'll give you a random amount of time you have to react, because sometimes there's just not shit you can do, but that's very rarely. Other times you just drop your items, run in a straight direction, and you should be just fine. It can catch new players off guard, and I would put this higher on the list if it weren't so damn hard to scan it for the bestiary, dude. 12. Snarefully. This centipede will hide on ceilings and jump down onto people's faces before slowly suffocating them. They're pretty dangerous if you don't know what to do and you haven't scanned the ceiling in a while. And as long as you have a shovel, you can get your mate to whack it off of you. Secondly, just leave the facility and it'll die instantly by either using an exit door or just teleporting. Without any of these, it's a death sentence if you're in multiplayer, but in solo, as long as you stand still, they actually won't kill you. They'll just leave you critically injured. and this is actually the first way I have ever died in Lethal Company. But now that I have experience, I can encounter them fairly easily. 11. Circuit bees. These bees are the second highest risk reward in the game. These bees will spawn in a hive somewhere on the surface, and their swarms can be found with the electric bolts that travel between the bees. When you find them, you can lure the bees out before swiping their hive and running as far as you can. You want this hive because it can make or break quotas, as it can sell for anywhere from 50 to 170 quota credits. A tip, you can start by juking them to the left or right and then spamming E to pick up their hive. After you have it, beeline it straight for the ship and then drop it once your stamina bar visibly depletes. You want to try to get it not in the ship but to the side rails, not anywhere near a ladder, and I normally put it towards the back or right side of the ship. After bringing it to the railing, you want to drop it, and then when you leave, you want to go out the door and pick up the hive and bring it back inside. As long as you pick it up, you can teleport back with it, so it's not very precise. And if they're not handled correctly, they will slap the shit out of you, but you can make some really good money with them, so it's worth it. Breaking the top 10, we have the bunker spider. Now, they are a weird enemy that'll build webs around its nest area, just like a loot bug. However, they are aggressive and don't move that fast. Where they excel in is area denial, as an entire hallway or doorway can be blocked with the webs. When making the webs, you can walk kind of close to it and it'll just freeze in place. I'm sure this is a bug, but it'll remain to do this until you'll get too close where it'll begin to attack. But catching them at this time makes them almost harmless, as long as you keep your distance and have a person stay there, they can't attack you, unless you hit a web. The webs slow you down and give your location to the spider, meaning it's coming for you if you hit one of these. They can be killed, but it's rather difficult to do so, because they're right in between walking and sprinting speed, and they can do a fuck ton of damage, where even if you took small damage from things like a homemade flashbang, fall damage, or a spore lizard, they can still one-shot you. Overall, just an inconvenient enemy. Also, you can turn on arachnophobia mode if you're scared of spiders, and it'll turn it into 3D red text that just says spider. Number 9, eyeless dogs, also known as mouth dogs. These pitbulls from hell are completely blind, but they have the best hearing in the game. They prowl in packs, listening to any noise from the player. If you hear them stomping, they can hear you. When you see them, you have to crouch and do not jump or drop items or even speak. Any noise you can hear, they can hear too. Also, if you're one of those guys with the super loud mechanical keyboards that can be picked up by your mic, you're fucked, as they can hear that. I noticed that moments with them are always tense, especially trying to warn other people that there's one nearby, or if there's a forest giant nearby, as those two together can fuck you up. They can be killed, but they have the most health out of any enemy that can be killed, requiring 12 hits to fully kill. When they hear you, they will run and lunge towards where they heard the most recent noise, meaning you can bait them away by screaming in an area and then looking at it. But it's kind of inconsistent, as sometimes even when you dodge them, they can still chase you or somehow get to you. Number 8, Thumper. Thumpers are bunker spiders on crack. They make big stomping noises, and when they find you, they release, in my opinion, the scariest noise in the game. It can be killed, but it's rather difficult, as it takes 5 hits while this thing is beelining it straight for you. If you hit it once, make it turn, or it hits a wall, its momentum will reset, but it can quickly speed back up. You can jump over it, as this will make it do a 180, which will slow it down a lot, but you might end up getting hit by it, and it hits like a damn truck. In straight lines, it's faster than you, but where you can counter them is by making them turn corners. This is your chance to jump it with a shovel. By making them turn corners, you can get the kill somewhat consistently, but still terrifying enemy. 7. Ghost Girl, or as I call it to my friends, schizophrenia. Now, some people don't mind this, and some people utterly hate this, and it depends on how you play. The Ghost Girl is incredibly complex, so I can't describe everything to you, but here's a version of it for dummies. She will haunt one person at a time and remain invisible to every other player. She is my least favorite enemy, as not only is she hard to deal with, she's likely the most nerve-wracking and unsettling entity in the game. When she haunts someone, she will toy with them by scaring them in many ways with heavy breathing, giggling, reducing all sound around you, making a muffled feeling, and her bald-headed ass, she will make you need a change of pants because it's just you versus her. No one can help you. Actually, your friends can make it worse, because if you stay near them while you're haunted, they can stare at her because she's completely invisible, they don't know, and can increase her attack level just by being there. You could play it perfectly right and your friends can still kill you. Now, I hate her because not only am I easily scared shitless in games, I'm also the most paranoid out of my group, meaning she'll target me before anyone else. How paranoia works is based on a bunch of different factors like insanity, which is its own thing, but paranoia basically works by how frantically you move your mouse and how much you sprint while inside the facility. Those are both factors that can cause her to target you. Now, when she haunts you, it's a game of hide and seek, and you are the hider. She will spawn behind you standing still, usually in doorways, and when she does, you'll hear her heavy breathing, giggling, and she'll even talk to you sometimes. She has to make line of sight in order to initiate the chase, and you have to be looking at her. She has to do this at least twice in order for her to begin attacking, but after that, you likely won't get a third time since it's only about 1 in 8 tries that she won't attack, meaning if you lose twice, she will start chasing you. Sometimes she might not and you get an extra chance, but you can't really count on it. After she begins chasing you, she'll start skipping toward your location. Run, because she cannot be tased, cannot be shot, and cannot be beaten in the big ass forehead with a shovel. You cannot stop her when she starts skipping toward you. You have to run away in order to get her to despawn, only for the game to start all over again. She can be countered by hugging walls and not letting your back be exposed, as she can only spawn behind you. In order to be safe, you will have to leave the ship immediately. She can and will chase you out of the ship and still haunt you, but the ship is your safe haven because you can protect your back by watching the monitors with an object behind you like the shower or the red storage cabinet. Place them behind so she can't make line of sight, and the hider has beaten the girl. You will see her on monitors on the outside dancing, taunting you, waiting for you to come outside. But as long as you are now the monitor guy and stay on the ship, you now have extra value as you are now baiting her away. Also, she will increase the chance of haunting you if you have an expensive inventory. So if you're a monitor guy, you can hold 150 or more quota credits, and she will actually target you a lot more often than the other guys, so you can have more value by baiting her onto the guy who's completely safe. And it's scary as shit, but I'm glad that my fear of women has now translated into video games too. Number 6, the Bracken. The Flower Man is the most famous entity in all of Lethal Company, and he's the staple enemy of the game. He will stalk you before trying to sneak up behind you. When he does, you have to look at him before quickly glancing away. You have to look away until his footsteps are no longer heard and he has retreated away. He has the smartest AI in the game and will play against you. If you don't turn your back often, he will attack often. But if you're looking behind often, he will not attack you, he will go for other people. This is really difficult with multiple people because one person can look at him, and if he's already retreating and you glance at him for too long, he'll attack and snap your neck. A tactic I use is to have someone else in the group always check the other guy's back and only have one person looking at the Bracken. I don't do this because it increases paranoia, and I'm scared of bald women. I'm looking at you, girl. The Bracken is difficult, as when first spotted, you now have to scan everywhere and look for his glowing eyes. When you get him to go away for the first time, it's advisable to leave instead of retreating far away. He just backs up for a little bit before going on the hunt again, going into a stalking phase where he will stay around you and look for its next target. One way to tell if a Bracken is destined to spawn is by finding the back rooms. It's a single yellow room they will drag his victims to when he kills them. He can be killed, but this requires a zap gun or shotgun because you have to look at him in order to kill him. 5 entities left, and at number 5 we have the Nutcracker. Remember how I said that circuit bees are the second highest risk reward entity in the game? These are the most. You will tell when a Nutcracker is nearby in the facility by listening for the wooden creaking of his footsteps. He will patrol the halls wielding a shotgun. When he finds someone, he will open his eye and scan the room for people. When this happens and he has line of sight with you and you're in the same room as him, stand still, as he cannot see you if you're not moving. This includes mouse movements. Stand still and let him walk away until you and your gang can jump him baboon hawk style. You can only attack him when he's in a scanning and attacking state, and you have to hit him 5 times in order to kill him. You don't actually have to hit him in the eye though, you can hit him anywhere in the body. A zap gun is highly recommended as you can stay behind him, but he makes sharp, jagged movements when he's patrolling that could find you pretty easy. And he's right next to you and will blow a golf ball sized hole into you. Also, while he's walking around and you manage to get in front of him, he will kick you in the nuts so hard that he'll instantly kill you and fling you around. Hence the name Nutcracker. But it's worth it, as if you kill him, you can carry his shotgun, the strongest item in the game, able to one-shot all of these enemies: Spore Lizard, Baboon Hawk, Hoarding Bug, other players, spiders, dogs, thumpers, centipedes, the Bracken, and the Mast. It has 2 bullets in the chamber and drops 3 shells on death, meaning you have 5 shots to work with in total. That's 5 pretty fucked up entities if you play it right. 4. The Mast. Now the mast is my second least favorite enemy, as this fucker looks a lot like other players and works like a zombie. They can be spawned in two ways, naturally spawning as an enemy and another player deciding to wear the tragedy or comedy mask. When worn, it will possess whatever player's face it's on. It will take them over and will hunt players to barf in their face and turn them into more mast. Any barfed player is now a mast, turning into a zombie infection basically. They especially suck on Titan, as they will puppy guard the entrance and can suck with the ladders and stair systems, making them hard to spot. They can also instantly go up and down ladders. At first they will move slowly and sporadically, but as they get more used to their host, they will move faster and faster and even be able to sprint at your speed. They will listen for sounds more and detect people more the longer that it's been on its host. Eventually, they can make it to the ship, where they will hide and attack people, making the problems worse as there's now two masts on the ship hiding. The worst part about them is when they take over a player, they can be teleported back to the ship. This sucks, as I'm usually mission control, and our code is that you have to spin 3 times, shake around violently when you're being chased and want to teleport. But the mask can do both of these things, and it does it quite often. I've had many instances where I've teleported them straight onto the ship because I see them spinning and think my mates are in trouble. Number 3, the Forest Giant. This behemoth is the second largest enemy in the game, and will use its size against you. It can see you from miles away and begin hunting you until they break line of sight with it. This can be done with trees and rocks, but if they lose aggro, they will puppy guard the nearby area and try to find you. So if you try hiding in the facility, they will puppy guard the entrance. When they catch you, they'll grab you for a second before eating you. In this time, you can be teleported out of its hands, but it's pretty hard to pull off. The best way to counter these is to carry stun grenades on you, which are useful in other situations but are especially good against them, as it can save your life. Another thing is you can use the radar booster and spam ping on it, as this can continually flash the giants, which could save you if you're carrying them, but the radar booster isn't exactly useful. Number 2, coilheads. The coilhead is brutal, as it's not directly dangerous and doesn't kill often, but usually it leads to many deaths, as it requires the most amount of attention and synergizes really well with other entities. A coilhead will run around and stalk the player like a backed off bracken, but unlike a bracken, they don't back off when you're stared at. They will stand still and freeze in place, and will quickly sprint to the player until they make line of sight again or reach the player, where they will rip your arms and head off and replace it with a spring. Think of them as Bracken's more difficult brothers. Since they're brothers, they know how to work together. The Bracken and Coilhead combo is one of the hardest to deal with in the game, because in order to counter the Bracken, you have to turn your back, which is not allowed by the Coilhead, so you have no idea where to look. The most difficult part is leaving the facility, as you have to face the door in order to leave, meaning it will sprint towards the player when they try to leave, making it a last run before you can escape. Also, they're unpredictable, as they will randomly run anywhere with no players in it. A tactic is to find a dead-end pressure door, and with a well-coordinated team, you can counter them, but even then, it's still incredibly dangerous. After you lure them in there, you can shut them away, and they can be perfectly safe. You can do this with a Bracken too, but it's much more difficult. But getting a Coilhead in there doesn't mean you're safe from Coilheads, as multiple can spawn. They cannot die in any way. Landmines, shovels, zap guns, shotguns, nothing will kill them. Finding one of these and not being ready and on the move usually means death. And number 1, the most dangerous entity in the game, the Jester. The Jester is a jack-in-the-box enemy. Doesn't seem that bad, right? It'll follow the player for a little while with its arms and legs before cranking itself for about 45 seconds. And then it will burst out of the top, revealing a skull monster you can only imagine in your worst nightmares. When a Jester is spotted, everyone must evacuate in the facility. It is the most aggressive creature in the game, and it knows where everyone in the facility is. It'll start moving slowly at first, but will quickly ramp up speed almost 2 times as fast as you can sprint. Like the Coilhead, it cannot be killed. Also like the Coilhead, when it starts cranking, it will follow you, meaning it can be trapped in a pressure door, as it's difficult, as with its wide hitbox and tendency to stop in doorways, there's not a consistent method to deal with them, as you only have 45 seconds to do this before they start chasing you. This enemy is so strong because of the hold it has on every player. It won't directly kill, but it'll force players to stay right next to the exit, ready to leave if they hear its haunting, out-of-tune Jack-in-the-Box song. If found deep in the facility, pray that there's a fire exit nearby. If not, you are bones. If everyone leaves though, after about 15 seconds, it will stop whining and go back into its box, but it will inevitably find someone and start the cycle all over again, as long as someone's in the facility, making it, in my opinion, the hardest enemy in all of Lethal Company. Thanks for watching.